Everyone, it's Emily Fox, and today's video is going to be all about Stephen King. Specifically, is unofficial top 10 most popular books. I'm saying that because I'm just going to go on Goodreads and discuss his most rated and reviewed books. Just using this as a starting point to discuss his work, my feelings about him in general, but also specifically, we're going to go through the list and let you know, did I read the book, how I felt about it, would I recommend it, and if I haven't read it, I'll let you know if I'm planning on it. Maybe I do own it already. And if I don't, you can feel free to convince me in the comment section, and I would love to hear your own thoughts. And then at the end, I'm also going to mention a couple of the books that didn't quite make it to the top 10 that I think are worth checking out. So let's get to work. Quick disclaimer, I have read probably like 30 of his books or something. I feel like he came out with so many. I did do in the past a video where I reviewed a lot of the ones that I had went through. I can link that if you are interested. But overall, I have mixed feelings about him. I do think he's a prolific author. He's coming out with books like 10 times a year, it feels like. And the quality is a little hit and miss. In general, I do find that his endings are not his strongest points. In general, I do think he's really good at writing like awful characters and talking about like point of view of children, like horror, how scared they are. That he's really good at it. We'll come back to that because again, his top 10 does include some. I do tend to have some issues sometimes with the way he writes female characters or how gruesome things can get. I feel like sometimes it just go too far for me, which I don't find that it happens that often to me, but he has done that for me a few times. So yes, not the list. Unofficially, his most popular book is The Shining. So on Goodreads, it has over 1.5 million ratings. So very, very popular. Unfortunately, we're not starting on a good note because this book I tried twice and couldn't finish it. The first time I tried the physical book and then I tried the audiobook, and both times I put it down pretty much at the same spot. The storyline, from what I remember, is this family a little down under luck. The husband has lost his job and he finds a new one where he has to basically go to this hotel, remote hotel, to just, keep it safe, do some little repairs, and he brings his family there. And during the winter, snowstorm, I do like those vibes of like isolation, winter, all of that. You don't really know if the place is haunted, if it's driving him crazy, if it's the alcoholism. So like there are those those vibes. And unfortunately for me, both times, again, I had forgotten why I had put it down, and it's because of the main male character. And I know that it won't bother everyone, but it got to a point where his thoughts, as he's slowly, losing it, become so violent towards his wife. And I know that it is part of the storyline, but it became triggering for me. And I don't think I've said that very often. There's probably like 2-3 books out of like 1,000 that I've read on Booktube that were too much for me on that specific topic, and this one was definitely it. So yeah, I put it down physically, and then the audiobook, it was too much. But it's quite popular, so it definitely could just be me. So yeah, definitely worth the heads up though, because again, I'm probably not the only one that felt like this, but I couldn't finish it. I also haven't seen the movie, and I'm not planning on it. So yeah, this one wasn't for me, and it happens. It's fine. In second position, we have It, which has 1.15 million ratings, and I have also read that one. This one I feel like is such a mixed bag for me because the strongest parts are very, very strong, and then so let's start with the good parts. Basically everything with children. I feel like that part, well, I take it back. It starts really strong because I was mentioning like children's fear is so good at describing it. Like literally from the beginning, you have this child that opens the door from to the basement, and like it's dark to light, like those vibes. He's so good at it. So good. Again, horrible characters. Most of the section with the children, fantastic. Really enjoy them. I do think it's long. I feel like that's a comment that I've heard a lot about this book. Yes, King can yap. We know that. But my issues with it is mild spoiler. I'll put it on the screen. I tend to be really careful with spoilers, and I tend to just put them in the comment section, but this section needs to be mentioned because it goes off the rails towards the end. The whole scene in the sewer, basically the gangbang with the 10-year-olds, like it didn't feel necessary. Like, I know horror, shocking value, but like that was not necessary. And I wish I could erase from my memory this whole scene, because King describing the first orgasm, which like, please, but the first orgasm of this little girl during, like, come on. It was a sad day to be illiterate. So yeah, that whole section did not need to exist in my opinion. And then you get to the actual ending, which I did not find good. And I feel like it's a theme again with him in general. Like, you don't want to read 1,000 pages to get disappointed by the end. He tends to do a lot. So overall, I think I had rated this book like a 3.5, 3.75, because again, really, really good portions, and then really not good portion. He's great at writing awful characters, though. The whole like fridge scene, keeping it vague. Yeah, he's great at that, but sometimes it goes in a direction that I'm not really interested in reading. So, plus again, the ending was disappointing. I wanted more, but it is what it is. So, his second most popular one. The third one is The Stand, which I am a big fan of post-apocalyptic books, or I thought so. I did a video really back in the day where I rated all of the ones that I had read until that point, and it made me realize that I hadn't given 5 stars to like any of them. So I gave up on the genre for a little while, then went back to it and found a bunch of 5 stars, which again, I can link that down below if you are interested. And this was part of the first one, where I read all the popular ones. I feel like if you like post-apocalyptic book, you have heard of The Stand. And I do think it starts really strong, the whole like disease propagating, which might feel a little too close with the pandemic, but it was really good in the beginning. I do think that once again, it's quite long. I didn't really care for the ending. And I do think the whole like 80s vibes of keeping your virginity for evil, like it just doesn't. So I found myself kind of not as invested as I've seen other people. It's so popular. Once again, this one has almost 800,000 ratings. So it's popular. I did read the unabridged version. I know it has been like corrected or, edited a little bit since, so I don't know about that, but the original one that I read was okay. I don't have that many feelings. Again, I've read so many post-apocalyptic books, and I feel like if this wasn't like, oh, it's Stephen King, I wouldn't have mentioned it in my top 5, 10. Like, it was fine. It was fine. Number 4, we have Misery, which I have not read. Is it worth it? I do not think I own this one. I'm pretty sure I don't. Is it worth it? You let me know. And then we have Carrie, which is a classic. I remember seeing the movie as a kid, which, horrifying, but I haven't read it. Let me know. I do think it tends to play a lot with like religious trauma. And I feel like this is a little bit the vibes of this one. So let me know if that one is worth it. I also do not own it. Next, we have Pet Sematary, which I think I'm quickly looking at the list. I'm pretty sure this is my favorite of the top 10. And I did really enjoy this one. How can I even describe this story? This family moves to this house. Things are weird. Pets coming back to life, maybe. Since reading this book, I have adopted cats accidentally. The cat distribution system, right? As usual. And as it's done for most people, right? And I feel like this story is even more horrifying now, but I really enjoyed this one. This one did stick with me, and I think the ending is good, which I don't say that really often with him, but I think this ending was good and definitely creepy without being overly gruesome. Well, at least I don't remember it being that gruesome. Again, some things will affect other people more than others, right? So this one was fantastic compared to, again, the other ones I've read on this list. It was like a 4 point something for me. So a solid read, would recommend, definitely one of the best Stephen King books, in my opinion. 11/22/63, I have not read. I do own it, and I have seen a TV show, which I feel like sometimes watching the TV show beforehand makes you not want to read the book, although sometimes it makes you want to pick it up, but I feel like I'm intimidated because it's really thick, and it's a little bit more like political than I really care about, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to pick it up or not. Should I? I feel like it's one of his really popular ones. I mean, clearly over 500,000 people have rated it on Goodreads, so maybe one day. Is the ending good? I don't know. I do like in general like time travel, but I feel like at this point I've read so many of his books, and I tend to be kind of, I'll read the ones that I own and then, move on with my life unless something comes out and it's like really, really popular. So I don't know. Number 8, we have The Gunslinger, which I feel like is probably my most unpopular opinion. I read the first book, and it was, once again, the like original one. My edition was literally, it had pictures, but they weren't even at the right spot. Like, it was a complete mess. And before people come for me, the author did mention that he wrote this, I think it was 19, and like he said himself that it was not a good book. So like, I found it extremely confusing. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be a little bit, but it read like a lot of adverbs, and like, I don't know if the character, hazy and I don't know, but it just, I wasn't a fan. I didn't really care about some of the scenes, and it just left me extremely confused. And this was so popular and raved about that I thought I was going to love it. I had found like the first like 4 books at a library sale. So like I bought 4 books in one go. I mean, they were 4 for $1, but still. I was excited, and I read the first one, and it took me like 4 years to attempt the second one, and I put it down pretty much instantly because it wasn't for me. And that's okay. I feel like in general, I'm tired of the whole like, oh, you need to read the first like 10 books of a series for it to get good. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, unfortunately, this one was a huge flop for me. I know in general people love it though, so. In ninth position, we have Salamis Lot, which this one I think is about vampires. I do own it. I'm planning on giving it a shot, but I have a limit of 1 vampire story per year. Not really, but I've hit my limit so far for this year. I will eventually give it a shot. Like I said, the ones that I own, I want to try them before getting rid of them if I don't like them. But I haven't tried this one. I think it's quite popular. Like, rating-wise, it is higher than the Gunslinger. So, like... And then on the unofficial list, in 10th position, we have The Green Mile, which I have not read, but I have watched the movie. Love the movie. Very heartbreaking. And I don't know if I would want to read the book because of that. Is it a short story or a long one? I feel like... No, it's a long one. Okay, 600 pages. For some reason, I thought maybe it was one of his shorter stories. No. 600 pages. Is it worth it? I feel like it's going to be a really difficult read because, again, I've seen the movie. I loved it, but like it's a tough one to go through, so I don't know if I really want to go through it or not. I believe this one was also inspired by some real life events, which horrifying too. So I don't know. I think from all of the ones on this list that I do not own, it would probably be the one I would be the most interested in, but I don't know if emotionally I can take it right now. I mean, it's Stephen King, so I feel like obviously it's going to be horrifying, but I know what's going to happen, and like I know that one of the characters is going to be on my list of most hated characters, so I don't know if I can do that right now, but maybe one day. Maybe one day. Now let's talk about the ones that I have read that are not part of this very official top 10 and that I think are worth checking out. Because like I said, it's a bit hit and miss in general for me. Like recently I had attempted to read At Pupil, and it's one of those stories that I had to put down. It's not very long. I think it's like 200 something pages. But whenever the third scene of animal abuse was approaching, I decided that I had hit my limit. The whole like, it was a cat and a bird and like they went to adopt a dog. It was like, that's enough for me. That's enough. So I just couldn't finish it. But out of the ones that I did enjoy, I would recommend also The Long Walk. Technically, it was written under Richard Bachman, so like a pen name, but it's Stephen King. And it doesn't feel like his usual work, but I did really enjoy the premise. You have a main character, and like every year there's this event, The Long Walk, where 100 young men go on this walk and they can't stop. There can only be one winner kind of thing, and everyone that slows down or stops or whatever gets shot. And my main complaint when I was done was first the ending. I'm sorry, the ending, of course. But also I felt like it's a dystopian-ish world, and I didn't feel like there was enough context as to like why would people participate. And I have since learned that it's once again kind of inspired from real life events. So it makes a bit more sense now that I do know that. But I did really enjoy the slow descent into madness from the main character because he goes into it like, yeah, cool, good idea. I don't know why, but whatever. And then slowly he starts getting exhausted, seeing, it's traumatizing to see the other people dying. But again, the ending, I found it a little bit unsatisfying. It could have been worse. It could have been worse, but it wasn't bad. There were a few scenes that, once again, I had a little bit of an issue with the way he would describe some female characters, but in general, I did overall enjoy this book, and I did enjoy, again, the slow descent. He's so good at this. He's so good at this. So definitely one of the ones that I did enjoy, even though it's not even on his real name, but check it out. I also have to mention Shawshank Redemption. I believe the whole title is Rita something. Shawshank Redemption. I'll put it on the screen. I had seen the movie growing up, and I had enjoyed the movie. Apparently it wasn't super popular when it came out, which I feel like nowadays it's seen as a classic. Maybe it's just me. But I did read a book one just before, actually. It's part of the same edition, just before At Pupil that I couldn't finish. And I really, really enjoyed this. Obviously, these two characters in prison, one innocent, one guilty, and things happen. It's kind of short, so it's definitely worth picking up if you haven't. If you somehow went your whole life without knowing any spoilers, definitely check it out, or at least watch the movie. So definitely one of the ones that I did really enjoy, and for once it didn't feel as gruesome. So might be more your cup of tea. Before I mention the last one, there are a few others that I wanted to give a quick shout out. I did recently read Kujo, which I did overall enjoy. The ending was actually good. And it's on the shortest side. For him, you have this dog, this giant Saint Bernard that gets scratch bitten by a bat. So obviously he goes crazy. What's the name in English? I always forget. La rage, like they foamy at the mouth. You know what I mean. And once again, very good at describing children's fear, awful people. And it broke my heart every time we would get a section from the point of view of the dog of like, I'm not feeling good. No, my heart every time. So that one was a good one. I did remember enjoying The Institute, but I would struggle to tell you what it was about for some reason. It didn't really stick with me, but it's like children basically getting kidnapped and like superpower, like telekinesis and that stuff. I remember enjoying it. I gave it 4 star, but that's all I remember. So, and then last but not least, I need to mention this one because I genuinely did like it, but there's a huge asterisk here. You're gonna have to bear with me for a second. The series is called the Bill Hodges Trilogy, the first book being Mr. Mercedes. It's not the book I did read though, which, for context, the second audiobook I ever listened to, and the first one I used a library for, was End of Watch, which is the last book in this trilogy. I didn't know. I didn't know. All I saw is that it was available, Stephen King, it had great ratings, so I was like, why not? Well, like I said, it turned out to be the last book in this series. It took me a while to realize that maybe something was up because it actually makes a lot of sense without the context. There would just be moments I was like, I feel like we don't really know who this character is. And I thought maybe I'm just not used to listening to audiobook, but no, it was the last book in the trilogy. So I do want to say I actually really love the book, even though, again, it was the last one. I have since watched the first season of the TV show, and I feel it gave things a lot more context, and I also enjoyed it. Quite gruesome, once again, Stephen King. But I don't think I'm going to go back to read the books, but I really like the audiobook of the third book. So I would say in general that this series seems definitely worth checking out because, again, how often can you read accidentally the third book in a series and really enjoy it? Like, really, really enjoy it without the context. It's weird, but it kind of worked for me. So it absolutely deserves a mention. Keep in mind, again, I've read probably 30 of his books, and this is one of my favorite. And frankly, it's just too funny not to mention because if you've read the series, actually let me know. But I found the characters really attaching, again, based on the third book. Main character is investigating this mass murder, really is a lot. And a lot is happening. And there's a little bit, as Stephen King tends to do, like superpower-ish starting to happen throughout. And yeah, it was good. It was good. I've just decided to accept that it's weird, but it was good. Not the book being weird, which it is, but like the whole why do I enjoy the last book in the series and only that one? I don't know. I don't know. It happened. It happened. Also, to be fair, Mr. Mercedes is technically number 11 on the Goodreads list. So like it deserves a mention. It's definitely one of the most recent one on the top 11. So I can't be the only one that actually did enjoy that one. Otherwise, out of the ones that I do own on my shelf that I do want to try, I do have On Writing, which is only nonfiction that I'm aware of, at least the only one that I do own. I've heard that it's quite fantastic, especially if you want to write, which I don't really want to, but I'm still curious to give this one a shot because I've heard fantastic things about that one. Otherwise, I feel like a lot of the ones that I do have on my shelf, I'm a bit nervous because they are longer. And once again, at this point, I know that his endings are not great. And like, for example, Under the Dome, it's over 1,000 pages. Do I really want to commit? I'm pretty sure I've heard that the ending is not great, which like, it's a lot to commit to knowing that you're going to be left underwhelmed by the end. I believe this might be also a TV show. I feel like a lot of his work has been done, adapted into TV shows and movies. Actually, recently I watched The Mist, which I think is one of his shorter stories. And I've heard that the ending of the story wasn't great, but the one in the movie was great. I did Google it and I'm happy with the one in the movie. Definitely worth checking out, actually. Otherwise, from my shelf, I also have Needful Things that I've heard great things about, so I'm definitely going to give that one a shot. I also have The Dark Half and Dolores Claiborne, I think that says, that I've heard good things, especially with the last one that I mentioned. I also have Christine. That's the one with the car, which I'm going to give that one a shot too. I've also heard good things about Gerald's Game, but I accidentally got it in French, which it's my first language, so it's fine, but like I feel like it's weird to read translated work whenever you can read the first language it's written in. So like, actually just realized I picked up the English version also at a library sale later on. So I do own this. I don't know why I kept the French one. I feel like I'm a little over him in general because his work is so hit and miss. So I feel like I'm going to focus on the ones that I already own, that I've heard overall good things, and then I'll probably just do a big cleanup. In general, I feel like I've accumulated a lot of his books because they're easy to find. Again, library sales, they used to be like 4 books for $1. And when you're starting to read more, I feel like you just pick up authors that you recognize. So I feel like I picked up a lot of Stephen King. That's kind of where we're at. That's why I'm saying in general, I feel a little bit all over the place with Stephen King. I have tried a lot of his work and I've mostly unhauled them because I knew that someone else would be really excited to find like it or to stand at a little library around me. So I would rather other people check those out, even though I didn't hate them. I'm trying to keep only the books that I really enjoyed on my shelf or the ones that I will be rereading. And I don't think I'm going to commit to 1,000 pages again. So that's it for me. Now I need to know all about you. How did you feel about this top 10? Anything else that you think would deserve to be read more? Anything that you think you might have an unpopular opinion and personally you don't think is worth that much hype? I want to know. Thumbs up, subscribe. I'll put more videos on the screen, including some of the ones that I was referring to. Definitely check those out. And I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye. Also, let me know if you want me to do that with different authors, because I've done it in the past and I can definitely do it again.